Hey guys, Jesse here, and today I'm finally going to be taking a look at the P-Bandai MG Gundam Hazel Custom. Now, the sort of months leading up to the release of this kit were kind of strange. I mean, first, Bandai printed their high-grade line of the Advance of Zeta kits. Then Magic Toys came out with their master grade Hazel Custom, and then everybody was discussing, oh, will Bandai make a master grade? Can Bandai even make a master grade considering Advance of Zeta's weird licensing issues and yada yada? Then kind of out of the blue, Bandai was like,
surprise, motherfucker!
and gave us this and announced it, and there was much rejoicing. And then they said it was P-Bandai. Boo. So, yeah, I'll discuss my thoughts on this being P-Bandai at the end of the video, because I'd rather just focus on the kit for a majority of this review. So if you're interested in my thoughts, stay till the end. If not, that's going to be at the end of the video. So let's just jump into this kit and talk about it. And just first off, I just want to say this is a great, amazing kit. Probably the best version of the Hazel Custom we got out of the sort of three options, right? So let's go ahead and bring it in closer and see what I did to it. So I did a weathering job as per my MO. But with this one, I tried to go a bit more subtle. As you can see, just not as much chipping and such. I really, really enjoy Naoki's work. If you don't know who Naoki is, just Google Naoki Gunpla, N-A-O-K-I, and then Gunpla. And you'll see some of his work. He's a pretty famous Japanese modeler. And what I like most about his work is that his weathering on his kits are so incredibly subtle, but are so incredibly believable. And I'm going to work more towards getting to that level of subtlety in my weathering. And with this kit, I think I did better, but I can definitely do better. This is definitely not up to his level of skill, but I hope to get there one day. But you know, this is a good first step. I think it looks pretty good. I'm pleased with the way it came out. But let's talk about the detail painting I did, because there is some required detail painting you need on this kit to get it at least accurate to what the Hazel should look like. So back here on the backpack, that red you see in there needs to be painted pretty easy to do. These yellow bars across the head need to be painted. I think we all sort of expected that. That is sort of a, I mean, to expect yellow pieces that small to run across that length of the head is probably asking for too much, but in any case, that has to be painted pretty easy. I'm going to take the time here right now to point out this gimmick, which is a little interesting. I don't know much about the Advance of Zeta story or even the Hazel Customs mobile suit lore, I guess. But you can do this. I don't know what this is. In the manual it says this is a gimmick, so if you know what this is for, be sure to let me know in the comments below. But yeah, you can do that. In the eyes here, they do give you a sticker, but I went ahead and just painted the black around the eyes. It's a clear green piece in there. But interestingly, the head construction is a little interesting, because this face piece, where it kind of has the vents and stuff, includes the back of the eyes. So what I did is I painted the back of the eyes chrome silver with liquid chrome, and then I painted the black on the eyes and just put the green there. And as you can see, it gives this really nice sense of depth to the eyes. So really pleased with that. This camera right here is a sticker. I forgot to mention on the backpack here, that camera is a sticker. Funnily enough, this little bar piece I painted just because I thought it was a really cool detail that could be painted, but as it turns out, in the manual it says this should be painted gray. But yeah, I went ahead and painted that that little detail gold and silver. Same goes for these little bars on the knees. And as you can see throughout this whole kit, there's a bunch of this like rivets detail, which is really, really cool. It pretty much goes from head to toe. You'll find these little rivets everywhere, and I went ahead and painted them all gold because I thought it looked cool. On the hands here, the fingertips are supposed to be painted red. I went ahead and used the latest and greatest in paint application technology, a brush, and some red paint, and went ahead and just painted those in. I thought those came out really nice. Interestingly, someone on Reddit pointed out that the red fingertips are actually supposed to be like some sort of sensor unit or something that the Hazel has. Like it has sensors in its fingertips, which I think is pretty interesting. Should really read up more about the Hazel custom. I just know I like its design. The cameras down here and the legs are stickers. And unfortunately, up here in the vents, that black you see in there, and on the back of the vents, are all stickers. They're not awful because they go on a flat, recessed detail in the vents, so I went ahead and used them. But I know on the Magic Toys Master Grade, that's actually a separate piece back there with some vent details. So to not have that as a separate piece, or at least even have vent molding like detail in there, is pretty disappointing. I suppose you could go in there and detail it yourself, but that's a pretty hard place to reach. So it doesn't look awful simply because you're mostly going to have the legs pointed at this angle. So I mean, you're probably not going to see it most of the time, but yeah, it's a little lazy if you ask me, from Bandai. And then back here you've got this really large camera on the backpack, and I think that looks pretty cool. So another point of detail that is kind of strange, I guess. These thrusters have no detail on them at all. I repainted them gunmetal, forgot to mention, but they have no detail on them at all, and they're just flat, so they look a little strange. You might want to add some detail parts to those. So I almost forgot to mention that I also painted the piston details here in the legs. I painted the sort of larger piston part Italian red, and then just used my good old Tester's Diamond Dust for the pistons themselves. And also up here on the crotch piece, that yellow V there is painted. I painted that, but there is a sticker for it, so that's not a separate piece, unfortunately. I know the Magic Toys Master Grade, it is a separate piece, and on most newer Master Grades it's a separate piece, so I'm not exactly sure why they decided to cheap out there, but that's a really easy detail to paint, so it's not that big of a deal. And that's it for the painting on the mobile suit I did. I did a little bit more on the weapons, as we'll see in a second, but I'll talk about that later. So just talk about in terms of the looks. Yeah, this is probably the best version of the Hazel we've got right now out of the three options. Before someone asks, and I know someone will ask me to do it, I don't have the Magic Toys Master Grade, so I can't physically compare the two, but I have watched Zaku Aurelius's review a few times and his unboxing, so I can comment on it a little bit. The Hazel, or the Magic Toys, has far more panel lining, so if you're a panel line fan, you might want to go with that kit. This kit has more traditional Bandai levels of panel lining, and I much prefer this. For me, the Magic Toys is just too much panel lines, too many. One of the more offensive panel lines that the Magic Toys has is one that goes across the back of this back vent. It's just this ridiculous looking panel line that, I mean, that is just horrid if you ask me. So the details on this kit are perfectly fine. But after some extensive research, i.e. me looking at pictures on the internet, I can like 95% confirm that all the panel lines on here and all the details are actually the same as the high grade, which the high grade already had really great levels of detail, pretty much master grade levels. So getting it in master grade form isn't really a problem, but you kind of want the master grade form of a high grade suit to be different and to have different details. And this kit, while it has some, you know, more master grade levels of articulation and such, the details seem to be exactly the same, unfortunately. So if you have the high grade Hazel custom and you're expecting to get the master grade and get something totally different looking, I'm sorry to say, but I don't think that's the case. But it still looks good. I'm not saying that's a negative. It's definitely a great looking kit. So talking about building the kit, we know that part of this, or we knew that part of this would be based on the Master Grade Mark II version 2.0, and this kit is actually maybe 20% Mark II 2.0. Fortunately or unfortunately, depends on how you want to take that. Most of this frame is new. I'm just going to go out and say 80% of this frame is new. Almost all the armor is new. Some very, very few pieces are from the Mark II 2.0. I'll show you, or I'll talk about it later, but in any case, yeah, this is pretty much entirely new. And it was fun. It was a good standard master grade build. Nothing too different or exciting in this build, to be honest. Even the legs went together pretty much how I expected them to go together. The worst part of the build for me, though, were the decals, and it's not putting on the decals, it's the decals we got. I want you to look at this sheet of decals in the manual. Those are all the decals you get, and that is absolutely pathetic, Bandai. I mean, we've got the, you know, iconic decals that you would want with the Hazel custom, especially this nice huge one on the back skirt here, but no warning labels, no caution markings. I was really expecting some nice Hazel custom exclusive warnings and such, but nope, we don't get them. So all the warning decals you see all over this thing are from me, and interestingly, they're from a master grade Sandrock custom decal set. So yeah, you're gonna have to supply your own decals, but as you can see, I mean, if you go through the trouble of doing so, it's gonna look great. In terms of seam lines, there's only one seam line on the mobile suit itself. This arm piece right here has a seam, but as you can see, completely wiped out with some thin cement and sandpaper. And there's one really, really awful and horrid seam on one of the weapons, which we'll see in a second here. So, but as for the mobile suit, just up there. So talking about articulation, I mean, there's not much to talk about. It's pretty standard master grade articulation. There is something interesting going on here with the backpack. You can push it in and extend it out a bit, and it can go pretty much every which way that you would need it to. It doesn't turn, but it's not supposed to. The arms are normal, the shoulders are normal, don't really need to show that off. I guess the one interesting thing here, and it's pretty nice, is you've got this kind of swinging mechanism in the hips, as you can see in there. It's kind of annoying because it doesn't seem to want to stay in place in the back, which is where I want it to be, but you get really nice armor separation here in the legs. You get a really nice 2-point bend here, even for these bulky legs, and you've got this piece of armor that's going to be sliding and coming out on the knee, and I think that knee bend looks absolutely fantastic. So this guy has pretty, I mean, for a bulky suit, the articulation is great, but I mean, it's standard. It's nothing too spectacular for a master grade. It's not like Freedom 2.0 levels of breaking your shoulder and moving it in front of your whole torso. Let's go ahead and talk about the accessories. He doesn't come with many, but what he does come with is pretty much what you would expect for the Hazel custom. So let's go ahead and start off with the shield. Very nice shield. I don't have another 1:100 scale version of this shield because this is a very common shield, but I feel like the Hazel custom shield here is a little bit bigger than it should be, but I think that's just me. In the back here, this recessed area should be painted gray, but I thought it looked fine, though just white. This gray piece here is just all one piece, so this handle doesn't move, so he can't hold it in his hand, but the connector piece that this plugs onto holds it just fine. This little piece is separate, it does turn, and as I said, it plugs onto an adapter, so that's how it's going to connect onto the arm. You get this really nice big Titans Trial Mobile Suit Team decal, and I'm not sure what's going on with the grammar here. There's like comma and no spaces and a period, but yeah, I guess that's just how the Titans test team do, right? This big decal, let me tell you, if you're not good with water slides, I highly suggest practicing before you try to put this one on, because this is a tough one to get on there, and to get all the bubbles out and to get completely adhered to the shield. But as you can see, I got it on there, so if I can do it, you guys can do it. Next, we got the booster shield. Very, very iconic with the Hazel custom. It's kind of what we expect to come out the best on this kit, if you ask me, and I think they did a really good job. However, there is a bit of detail painting on this thing you got to do. This yellow bar here needs to be painted. This yellow part here needs to be painted. This entire recessed area should be gray, but when it's plugged onto the backpack, you won't even see this, so I didn't feel the need to paint that. All these little red dots you see all over the shield need to be painted. And in my opinion, I think that's required. That's a really, really simple detail to paint in, even with Gundam markers. So I think everyone can do that if you ask me. But it doesn't look quite right without those painted, if you ask me. Nice, another nice large decal here again. Practice maybe before you attempt to put this big decal on there. And yeah, it's going to plug onto the backpack with this little peg, pretty simple connection, and then we have that same connector piece to plug onto the adapter for the arm. And speaking of adapters, or the adapter piece, I'll go ahead and show it. This is what it looks like. It's going to plug onto the back of the arm here, and then you can choose a slot in the shield here or here, depending if you want on the side or the back of the arm. Then, of course, you can just flip it around if you want on the other arm. Then next, we have probably what's... I wouldn't say it's the most disappointing thing about this kit, but it is pretty disappointing. This beam rifle. So, nice beam rifle. It's very, very nicely detailed and nicely proportioned. However, everything besides this handle, that barrel, and this sort of camera piece is just two pieces. So that means you've got this ginormous seam running all the way around this whole beam rifle. And this ammo pack is actually part of this mold. I just masked it off and painted this gunmetal and then, of course, took off the masking tape. So that means this ammo pack can't come off, and that means those ammo packs on the side skirts are just for show. They can't actually go on the beam rifle. And I know this is the same with the Magic toys, and with the Magic toys you actually get two beam rifles, but that's besides the point. I know that's the same with the Magic toys, so it's on par with its competition, I suppose, but you kind of expect Bandai to do a bit better than your bootleg counterpart. So again, a little disappointing. I mean, I fixed the seam. As you can see, it's not even a problem anymore, but it was not a fun seam to fix, let's just say that. But it has a tab here, so the Hazel holds it just fine. And I went ahead and did some smoke effects on the barrel there to make it look worn. You do have a clear green piece in here. There's no sticker, so it's actually a dark clear green piece going into a dark piece. So I painted the back of it with that chrome silver, and as you can see, it glows a bit more. So I suggest maybe you might want to do the same. This scope piece can go down, and so can this secondary handle, and it can actually plug onto these side skirts with these little tabs. They're pretty shallow, so it doesn't hold on to it great, but yeah, so you can plug it onto the side skirts, and you can actually take off the ammo packs from the side skirts there and plug them onto the back of the arm in the same place that this would plug into. And I'm not sure why you would do that because it looks a bit strange, but it is an option. But in any case, yeah. Again, nice beam rifle in the end, but the fact that that seam was there was pretty bad. And that about does it for the Master Grade Hazel Custom. Great kit. I think it's an excellent kit. It's an excellent version of the Hazel Custom, and definitely the one I prefer. It has its flaws. For me, the biggest flaw for sure was that decal sheet. I really wanted some nice exclusive Hazel custom decals, so not to get those was pretty disappointing. Although the ones they give you are the iconic ones you would want, so I don't know, it's a bit of a trade-off. The beam rifle, yeah, that seam sucks, but that's fixable, so not much to complain there. I guess for some people, the fact that this is detailed pretty much the same as the high grade would be a turnoff for some people. I mean, obviously you've got more part separation in this guy. You know, the back thrusters here are separate pieces, whereas on the high grade they're just one piece. Same thing with like some thrusters down here, but then you've got like weird stuff like these vents in here being black stickers and not actually being detailed. So it's a little unbalanced in that sort of department. But in any case, I still suggest this kit if you guys can get your hands on it. It's definitely the best version of the Hazel Custom. So I'm going to let the kit spin here for a few seconds while I talk about my thoughts on this being P-Bandai. And just to give it to you straight, guys, this really shouldn't have been P-Bandai at all. 80%, if not more, of this kit is new. It only has 3 runners from the Master Grade Mark II 2.0, and you use a majority of those parts on the runners. So sometimes you get P-Bandai kits and you get old runners and you're using maybe like 2 pieces off of those runners, but pretty much all the runners at the end up empty. So yeah, I just don't really I mean, that suggests that this kit was designed from the ground up and wasn't taken from like a pre-existing kit and then sort of retrofitted with new Hazel parts. So this is an instance where I believe, yeah, this should have been a regular release, and it really sucks that it wasn't. I don't hate P-Bandai like most people. I understand why it exists. I have no problem with it existing. And most P-Bandai kits are justifiable. I mean, most of them are just like a color change or a few extra parts added, or just 2 kits kind of come together like the, what was it called? The Destiny Blanc or whatever, the White Force Impulse plus Destiny kit. But when it comes to kits like this, like the Hazel Custom or the Gun Diver, or I don't know, there's some other kits that are like mostly new. Yeah, this is where it's a little inexcusable, and I know many people are pretty upset that this is P-Bandai because it's really, really popular. And it's a kind of lead mobile suit. I don't know. Again, I don't know much about Advance of Zeta. I actually don't know anything about Advance of Zeta except that it takes place before Zeta. So I have no idea if this is the protagonist suit, but if it is, yeah, I don't know what Bandai was thinking making this P-Bandai. Maybe they'll release another Hazel kit and make it a regular release, like the regular Hazel, but I highly doubt it. And some people are speculating, will they release like the Hazel 2 as a P-Bandai? I don't know. At this point, I have no idea. But if, you know, in my opinion, Bandai made a mistake making this P-Bandai, and I can understand why people are upset. But that's it. Those are my thoughts on this being P-Bandai. It sucks, but it is what it is. That's basically all I can say. So thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you all next time. Bye-bye.